So once again, I know it's been a hot minute since I've made a Trans Am video, but I have a really good reason for that. And that is, you hate it. Okay, well, you don't hate it, and this doesn't even go for everybody, but just view for view, the Tahoe just performs way better than this car. This car and the Tahoe performed way better than my Camaro videos did. But the reason why the Tahoe, the Trans Am here kind of gets pushed back on the side burner or the back burner is because you like the Tahoe more. And I know you guys who subscribed for the third gen content, there are, quite a few of you there. You completely disagree because you specifically want this kind of stuff. But just going by the views, this just doesn't do as well as the Tahoe. And I specifically bought this car as a content car, a project for the channel. So when I see me, putting a Tahoe video up that gets 100,000 views, and I put a Trans Am video up that takes a lot more time to make and edit, and it only gets maybe 20,000 views, you can see where I kind of lose the motivation and from a business, aspect. It makes more sense for me to just pump out Tahoe videos. So if you are a Trans Am fan, don't forget to give this video a like because that is going to give me a little more motivation to get this thing done. And hell, if you are a Tahoe fan watching this video, still give it a like because I'm not gonna be able to get another truck or project until I get this thing up and running and out of here. All right, so my goal for today's video is pretty simple. All I wanna do is get this thing in the car, bolted up, and connected to the body through the Crossmember. That's it. Last video, we got the engine dropped in, we got the harness kind of figured out, the C100 harness modified, the engine harnesses ran. Still gotta do the fuel system, we gotta hook the harness to the engine. There's a whole crap load of stuff that needs to be done. But today, by getting this thing in, getting the Crossmember figured out, the torque arm, the drive shaft, that's gonna take care of a huge kind of undertaking of how this transmission is gonna fit. And from there, we could just kind of do the fuel system and get the hook and shit up. But what I have right here is the same 6L80 I've kind of been toting around in the other episodes in this series. Haven't done anything to it yet. It's still just a bare case so I can finagle it under the car without it crushing me. And the new stuff we have here is pretty much just gonna be standard kind of LS swap stuff. Nothing's really designed for a 6L80, but hopefully we can make it fit. So right here I have a Holley Blackheart LS swap Crossmember. This is the exact same one I'm running in my Camaro. It has a provision to mount the torque arm, and it's made for like a 4L60 or a T56 6-speed manual. Now the reason I had to go with this one is because the 6L80 does not have a provision to mount the torque arm on the back like the third gen transmissions. So with this, our torque arm is going to mount to the Crossmember. Transmission should fit in between here pretty good. And then lengthwise, the 6L80 and the 4L60, they're about the same. So I think it might just drop in. If not, we could kind of weld an extension on this or modify it. I'm not too worried about that. But in addition to that, I went and picked up a Sonic slip yoke. This is going to fit the 6L80E's output shaft because the dinky slip yoke on the stock drive shaft, it's way too small. The 6L80 is a lot bigger, so this is gonna slip right onto that. We have a conversion U-joint that's going to connect the beefier slip yoke to the stock drive shaft. And for the drive shaft, you can tell this isn't stock. This is actually a 4th gen aluminum unit that came out of my Camaro. I upgraded that car not too long ago, and then this thing has just been sitting in storage because I put a strange chromoly drive shaft in that. So this is a little bit lighter, looks a little bit nicer. I think it's gonna be a nice upgrade for the Trans Am. Then lastly, we just have the stock torque arm I'm gonna be putting in. I wanna try to get around putting another adjustable unit in like I put in my Camaro. I do not like the Heim joints on that. It clunks a lot, makes a lot of noise, so I'm gonna try to keep the stock torque arm for as long as I can, and maybe just go with like adjustable lower control arms to get the driveline angle correct. But with that being said, let's hop on over to the car, get the transmission bolted up. All right, so I got the initial mock-up of this pretty much finished, and a matter of fact, the only reason I didn't go completely through with it and you know, do the gussets and everything is because, well, I'm out of argon, so I have to run down and get some welding supplies before I can finish this. So what I had to do here was just kind of extend the front of the crossmember here for the transmission mount, because unfortunately the mount stud literally fell right on the edge here. So there was no way I could just extend this, the nut wasn't gonna fit. So what I ended up doing was just cutting this edge out, and you can see with that hole drilled, it's right there on the edge of that. So that had to go. And once I get argon, I'm gonna box this all back in. So this will be boxed in. I'm gonna put some gussets right here to make it a little stronger. I mean, this is a 1/4 inch plate steel, way thicker than what the actual crossmember itself is made of. And the reason I did it this way is because I didn't want this to sit on top of here, because I could have just put the plate on top, welded it around, but I wanted it to stay flush because the thickness of this 1/4 inch, that's actually the space that I have right now between the transmission and the tunnel. So I got a little up and down wiggle room, so there's, you know, nothing's gonna rub. And if I put that plate on top of there, game over, the transmission would be shoved up into the tunnel. I would have to try to shim this down, and I want to save that for later in case I need to make adjustments. I didn't want to just lose all my space by welding a plate on there. But let's hop under the car, see if this is going to line up. Might have to make that hole a little bit bigger, ream it out a bit. And then I guess I got to find some argon and finish this thing up. And I did go and install this Pontiac G8 pan. It's a little shallower than the Tahoe pan, so she's tucked up there pretty good. This mount is shot, I got to change that out. And I did consider, well, I tried to come in here and maybe just move the, well, remount the holes for the transmission mount where it, you know, mounts to the transmission, because it didn't have to go over too much like towards the front, but it was off a good amount. I'd say it was probably off maybe like 3/4 of an inch or so. So I looked into that, but at the end of the day, the most secure option was gonna be moving it, you know, just moving the standoff so we don't put too much tension on the back of the, you know, the aluminum piece on the tail shaft. All right, that's it, we're in. Look, Mom, no hands. Check that out. All right. So right here, you can see, that's that like 1/4 inch of movement of wiggle room before the transmission hits the top. And I might swap this mount out for a polyurethane, I don't know. But I wanted to make sure I kept that space. In worst case, if this really, if this isn't enough space and under boost or whatever, when we get to that point, this does lift up high enough to make contact, we can always shim this down a little bit, put some washers in between the crossmember and the body. And the only other thing I need to do is extend the drive shaft about, I measured like 4 inches to get the proper engagement into the tail shaft bushing and all that. And I'm not going to have that done. We're not going to install the drive shaft in this video, but yeah, once the transmission's back together and I got the tail shaft back in here, then I'll measure up for the drive shaft, send it out, have it extended, and then that's really gonna be it. But I mean, as far as the mounting, she's in there. I just have to make this look pretty, add some gussets, you know, give it some paint. So this is the welding situation. There was a knot. I had to cut it to get the knot undone, and this whole spool is basically junk now. And then on top of that, I'm completely at argon. But I do have some of the naughty stuff. I got some flux core. Do I use the flux core or do we go and get the argon? If I go and get the argon, you're not gonna see the video this weekend. Let's just go ahead and use the freaking flux core. so it's a few days later. I thought I was gonna use the flux core to finish welding this and get the video up past weekend. Didn't happen because once I started welding with that stuff, I realized how much I freaking hate it, and it was creating so much slag and it looked like crap. So I grabbed a tank of shielding gas yesterday, finished this all up, came out incredible to me. I'm not a fabricator by any stretch of the imagination. I just kind of put stuff together here and there as it's needed. And yeah, this I just built piece by piece. I knew the mounted pole had to be right here. So after I got that pretty much situated, it was just about trying to make it as strong as possible. I added some gussets here. I boxed this out to kind of keep this from flexing, being in this entire middle section is essentially hollow, and I did cut away this opening. But you know, that's why I went with the 1/4" steel to make sure this is gonna stay nice and stiff. And then on top of that, I went and just grabbed a stock 2012 6L80E Tahoe transmission mount. This thing was 12 bucks. We might put a poly one in there later on, I'm not sure. But right now, let's hop onto the car and make sure this thing still fits. All right, it appears mistakes were made. And the stud for the transmission mount is like, it's like a 1/2 inch off center from lining up. Now, granted, I do need to like slot this hole anyway to make it fit, but I think the main problem is when I set this up, I was using this crappy, look at this completely shot transmission mount. So when I got everything lined up, it was able to kind of wiggle left to right and sit where it needed to. Now that the mount doesn't do that anymore, it's just straight down. My measurement for that middle hole is off. If I could get you in here, you can see what I'm talking about. Well, I don't like it, but I think I know what I have to do. Awesome. So yeah, all I did was just take the Christmas tree bit and I opened this up another couple of steps. And I'm just gonna run a nice fat washer on that with the nut, which I have to find because I don't think I have a nut for this mount. Here we go. I got this one from something. I think this was from the exhaust on the car. Seems to be the same size though. Yeah, basically like that. And that's it. Transmission's pretty much mounted up. And the beauty of this, the cable pretty much just clears the transmission, so we don't have to worry about that rubbing or getting kinked. And then it could just come right down, curve this way. I can secure it to the crossmember, and then I just got to figure out a mount. I'm probably gonna have to get rid of this cable too. I'm gonna have to get like a universal one, but everything seems to line up pretty good. There's plenty of room for me to at least get the exhaust down here up until this point. Then I'm gonna have to get a little creative. But next episode, with this mounted up, I think it's time to start working on the fuel system and see exactly where I want to run those lines. And just to show you how this is all going to be said and done, I went and just popped the torque arm in. It's just sitting on the differential there. And the end of it here, it's going to pass right through that mounting bracket that comes with the crossmember. I just have to get a bushing for that, and that's going to be it. You can see we have plenty of room for our drive shaft to get mounted up. Once I have that extended, it's about 3.5 inches I need to extend it. Once again, not going to do that until the transmission is all assembled. And also the 2 final mounting bolts for the crossmember right here, and then there's one on the other side. The crossmember comes with these plates, and they have a nut welded on them. And all we're going to do is slip these through the frame rail up to those 2 holes in the crossmember. I got to drill through the frame of the car. And we're just going to pass the bolts through the crossmember, through the frame, into this, tighten them down. This is going to prevent them from spinning, and that's going to be it. Crossmember will be 100% done. All right, so I don't feel like I did too much in this episode. Previous videos were probably much longer than this one, but this is a huge, not a burden, but it's a huge step in getting this car running. The transmission is in its final mounting place. All the kind of fabrication stuff, I mean, with the exception of the exhaust, has been taken care of. And yeah, next episode we are going to take care of the fuel system, get those lines ran. We got to run a feed, a return. I got to figure out the regulator, what I want to do with that. We got to put a pump in the tank. The wiring's already there, thankfully, so we don't got to take care of that. And then from there on out, yeah, it's just going to be a little odds and ends, hooking all the sensors onto the engine. I got to figure out the radiator, what I want to do for power steering. AC got to go in, there's a lot of stuff, but at least the transmission, all the kind of hard fabricated, getting everything to line up stuff is finished, at least to my knowledge. And yeah, next episode, we're going to continue on and hopefully get this car running within the next 10 years. But once again, if you are a fan of this car and builds, don't forget to leave a comment, leave a like. Give me that motivation to get this friggin' car off jack stands, because right now I'm honestly thinking about putting a larger brake on the Tahoe, which is going to be probably the next video. If not, we're gonna be taking care of some undercoating stuff and rust prevention, because winter's right around the corner and I do not want the salt to eat that thing alive. But as always, I'm gonna link the stuff that I use down below, that hooker Crossmember, the transmission mount if you're interested. And for the transmission, this is a 6L80E out of a 2012 two-wheel drive Tahoe. If you are interested in it, you're kind of on your own. You gotta kind of source one, but you could get one from multiple years. But I definitely recommend getting it from a truck, preferably two-wheel drive, because you're not gonna have to open the transmission up and make a bunch of changes to it. That way you don't have to worry about the weird kind of flange mount that the Camaros have, and it's just gonna be a slip yoke kind of deal, just like the one that's in this. But for now, that's gonna do it for this video. I will see you guys in a few days.